What makes a successful entrepreneur? Well, welcome back. You want to be a successful entrepreneur, and I certainly understand that. Well, in the business world today, you're going to need a computer, and you're going to need computer savvy, because the successful people are all learning how to do this online with research. So in today's episode, I'm going to be answering your question, what makes a successful entrepreneur? Now, there's so many answers that this video could last about an hour and a half, and I don't think I'm going to have enough time to do that, but you've got to get the idea. So I'll start by saying that you need to be prepared for challenges. Now, what kind of challenges are we talking about? Well, there's going to be product challenges, there's going to be competitor challenges, there's going to be people challenges. You have to be a person that can handle those challenges if you're going to be an entrepreneur. Now, the proactive people usually do better than the people that sit back and wait. So the most successful entrepreneurs, they anticipate what's going to happen, and they try to control the future, and they have a much better chance of success than other people. If you're waiting for it to happen, you're probably not going to be really successful as an entrepreneur. All right, now ambitious people have a lot of business skills, and they're hungry for success. Well, if you're one of those people, I can tell you right now, you're on a head start. For sure, successful entrepreneurs are everywhere, and they're the ones that are hungry for success, whether it's because they want to make a lot of money or whether it's because they just want to be noticed. Okay, now most viewers that are learning how to be a successful entrepreneur, they have already studied Ray Kroc and McDonald's, so they understand that. And maybe they've gone on and recently they've known who Mark Zuckerberg was, and they've studied Facebook. Or if they're in the past, they might have heard about Henry Ford. Well, Henry Ford went bankrupt 2 or 3 times before he really had a successful business. What about Coca-Cola? Well, that was started by a renegade entrepreneur. All right, so entrepreneuring has a lot of challenges, and sometimes the challenges that people, they don't ask enough questions of enough people. So what am I saying? Who are you listening to, and who's answering your questions? Now, 90% of all entrepreneurs are going to fail. That's according to the Small Business Administration of the United States. So for every successful entrepreneur, there's an awful lot of them that fall on their face. But it's okay. Go ahead and fall on your face and fail, but fail forward and get started again on the next one. So most entrepreneuring is simple, but I want to tell you what the 2 big mistakes are. Now, the mistakes that people make are really too simple. But I can tell you, you can have all the business plans you want in the world, but there's 2 things that you have to get straightened out right away if you're going to be an entrepreneur. And the number one, revenue. In other words, sales and bringing in revenue are going to be important. And you're going to have to learn how to manage your money. So those are the 2 most important things that you need to learn about entrepreneuring. So if you can't sell to generate revenue, and you can't manage the money you bring in, your chances of failing are going to be pretty high. So the inability to sustain a business and sustain revenue is a big problem for a lot of entrepreneurs, because they get a lot of money in, unfortunately they spend it, they don't think about what's going to happen next. So they're not managing money, and they're not managing the sales and the revenue. So no cash coming in the front door, you already know what's going to happen. That business is going to fail. That's a business killer right off the bat. So why is this happening? Well, I'm going to tell you, I think it's happening because they don't have the right advisors. So who are you listening to? Now, folks, if you're listening to professors that have a tenured professorship at a college and a pension plan, that's not the place to be getting your advice. And school teachers are not the place to get advice. You need to get your advice from successful people. Now, where do most people get advice? Well, I'm sure you get plenty of it at home all the time. Well, there's nothing you're going to be able to do about that. But what about your friends? They're going to give you advice. Folks, they're your friends. Your friends know what you want. You all like each other. That's why you're always together, because you like each other. All right, you need to get your business experience from experienced people. In other words, you have to start asking the right people. Now, accountants aren't a good place to ask for advice. They're good at adding up numbers and telling you how you did. Attorneys are good at trying to keep you out of trouble and following the law. These are not the best sources of business advice. So you need to put that in the back of your mind. Now, some people say, well, I'm going to go to the bank and get advice. Well, the bank is good at lending or not lending. They know who to lend to and who not to lend to. But that's no place to get operational advice on how to run a business. So where are you going to get that? Look, investing your money is going to have a consequence, and that consequence is got a risk and a reward. It's very easy to say, keep the risk low and hope the rewards are going to be high. It's really easy, but the problem is it works the other way. There's a lot of risk in business, and you could lose your money quickly. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying you need to get advisors, you need to get coaches, you need to get mentors, you need to get guides. You need people to help you if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur. All right, now there's no one source of exact way to be an entrepreneur. There's multiple sources. There's no one source that you can say, do it exactly this way, and it's a cookie cutter, and it'll always work. That isn't the way it is. That's why you need experienced people to talk to and to get advice from. Now, if that's a coach or a mentor, you can get that almost instantaneously and change things almost instantaneously. The big breaks you're going to get in business don't just come to you and you get a big break and all of a sudden you're going to be rich. What's going to happen is probably a lot of little breaks as you go along. It's like going up a set of stairs. It keeps getting steeper and steeper, but you'll get little breaks and you'll kind of grow your business. But if you're trying to wait for one big break and it's going to change everything, it's not. But you might get one little break and that'll take you to another little break, and then you're going to build the business. In other words, do it simply, slowly, one step at a time. Now, in a moment, I'm going to give you an example of someone that does that, and I'm going to also give you an example of getting into business that you can keep your risk low, and you'll be able to do it for decades into the future. Now, I'm going to explain a business to you that when I started, I had been searching for a business and for many years, but I'm just going to explain it to you in just a few minutes' time, and then you can decide, is that something that you'd like to do? Now, entrepreneurs shouldn't just think of themselves as freelancers. Freelancers come along and they're willing to help you out for a certain period of time. But when the freelancer finishes, they're off to the beach, they're off on a vacation, whatever. If you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, well, to build a business, you will be a successful, but you need to build the business and manage the profits and manage the sales and manage the money and manage the people and manage the risk. I said manage a lot of times. That's what entrepreneurs have to do. So first you're going to have to create that business. And how are you going to do that? Well, I'm going to suggest that you ask a lot of questions. Now, freelancers will help you out, but they're not interested in building a business. They want to have part-time work so they can go to the beach when they want. They want to have part-time work so they can have other recreational activities or even other businesses. So a freelancer probably isn't the best place to go. So what you really want to do if you're going to build a business is you want to find people that are in business that are successful. Now, I can tell you that idea will really work. Why will that work? Because it's just like the old apprentice system. The old apprentice system was you learn from first maybe another journeyman, or you learn from a master, and if you do the same thing, you're going to have some of the same successes. All right, so let's talk about your business. Are you going to manufacture things? Are you going to have inventory? Who's going to control that? Are you going to need raw materials? Where are you going to get them? Who's going to buy them? Who's got the money? All right, biggest thing of all, who's the target market? Who is your target market? Who can you create a product for that they're willing to give you money? Are you solving a problem for them? If you don't have a problem-solving product, more than likely, nobody's going to buy your product. All right? You need to solve someone's problem. That means it's either a business problem or a recreation problem, but you're going to be able to solve that. People will pay for that, but they're not going to pay for just any old product. It's not going to happen. All right, so decades ago, I located a business that had an overwhelming amount of inventory and a lot of inventory that they wanted to get rid of. And they wanted to get rid of it for pennies on the dollar. Well, what better thing for me? If I could buy it for pennies on the dollar and then I could resell it, well, that was going to be good. But were they going to have, are they going to have inventory continuously that I could buy? Well, it turned out they have an abundance of inventory, and they have new inventory every single year. So the business was simple. I could do it online or I could do it offline, so it was meeting a lot of my requirements. Now, what was this business? Well, it was a subset of the regular real estate. Traditional real estate is homes, maybe small offices, small farms, but generally speaking, it's houses. All right, this business was the same way. It was a subset of traditional real estate. So most of what they had an inventory of and an abundance of was homes. All right, now these were real estate properties that people had not paid the taxes. So they had a surplus and they were unwanted. The county didn't want them. So the local government confiscated the property and they wanted to sell them. And they wanted to sell them for 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar. So the local government had too many of these properties. So all 3,000 counties across the United States were already foreclosing, confiscating, seizing properties that they didn't want and they were willing to sell. Now what I want you to put in your brain is if you can buy properties with these huge discounts, 60, 70, and 80%, could you get a property for 80% discount and then resell it? Well, that was the business that I was looking at. Now, the savvy, well-trained investors learn how to evaluate those properties, buy them for pennies on the dollar, and then resell them. So why not learn from savvy people that know how to do that? You need experience to be successful as an entrepreneur. Now, my name is Ted Thomas, and right below me, there's a free gift for you. But before I go, if you get involved in this business, before you go to any auction, make sure you have boots on the ground and you've looked at that property. If there was a windstorm or a hurricane, or there was a flood, or it was next to a chicken farm, no telling, or maybe the building had burned. I don't know what would have happened, but you want to check before you ever go to auction and buy that property. Also, you want to know what your selling strategy is going to be. In other words, if you don't have an exit strategy, don't buy the property. I'm Ted Thomas.